The silver dropship from Earth landed quietly on the landing bay of Aurelia Prime, the capital planet of the Galactic Accord. Above, the sky shimmered with soft purple clouds and floating cities. Around the ship, tall crystal towers reached into the sky like frozen lightning. It was beautiful, but cold. Jackson Roan stepped out, dressed in a plain black uniform, with Earth's emblem on his chest. His boots clicked softly on the polished metal floor. He scanned the bay. Dozens of alien delegates were arriving too, but none of them looked at the humans. They passed by as if Earth's team didn't exist. "Same as always," said Lyra, Earth's ambassador, walking beside him. Seen, but not heard. Jackson nodded but said nothing. He wasn't here to complain. He was here to watch, to learn, and, if needed, to act. The Galactic Council Hall was vast, its ceiling arched high, lit with stars that weren't real. The circular chamber was filled with representatives from every species in the Accord. Some floated in liquid pods, others stood tall in robotic shells. A few buzzed quietly, their wings invisible to the eye. Earth's seat was near the edge, small, low to the ground, forgotten. The main platform lit up. High Consul Theraxuor floated forward, his long silver robes trailing behind him. His voice echoed through the chamber. "We welcome all members of the Accord," he said, not even glancing toward the humans. "Let this cycle of unity begin." Jackson watched him closely. Therax's eyes were sharp and cold. He didn't hide his dislike for humans. To him, Earth was a fading planet clinging to history, not power. The meeting went on. Discussions about trade, security, border laws, topics that mattered. But whenever Earth tried to speak, they were politely ignored. Then everything changed. A deep rumble shook the hall. Lights flickered. A sharp boom echoed outside the council dome. A red flare lit up the windows. Something had exploded. Screams, alarms. The chamber fell into chaos. Security bots swarmed in. Guards sealed the exits. Jackson moved quickly, pulling Lyra behind a column. His hand rested on the small weapon at his side. But he didn't draw it. Not yet. Within minutes, emergency broadcasts flooded in. A government facility, just 2 levels below the council hall, had been hit. Dozens injured, several dead, and the worst news came next. Recovered footage shows the blast came from a Terran-made explosive, a voice said on the intercom. Earth is now under investigation for an act of aggression. Jackson stared at the screen in front of him. The image showed a grainy figure placing the device, a figure in a black uniform with Earth's emblem. "No," Lyra whispered. "That's not real." Jackson's jaw tightened. His voice was calm, but cold. "They want to make us the enemy." Above, Therax's voice returned to the hall. No longer polite, no longer neutral. "Earth has violated the sacred peace of the Accord. Until a full investigation is complete, they are to be suspended from all council activities." The lights dimmed. The session ended. Jackson stood still in the dark, heart steady. They had just made a mistake. The humans were moved to a guest sector far from the main council dome. It felt more like a holding cell than diplomatic quarters. The halls were quiet, and the guards outside didn't hide their watchful eyes. Jackson sat by the window, staring out at the glowing skyline of Aurelia Prime. Floating transports buzzed through the air, weaving between towering spires of glass and light. But down here, in the lower levels, it was all shadows and silence. Inside the room, Lyra paced nervously. "They're setting us up, Jax. This isn't just politics. This is a takedown." "I know," Jackson said. His voice was low, even. "They planned this. The footage, the timing. It's too perfect." "But why? Why now?" Jackson stood and walked to the door. "Because someone wants us gone, and they think we won't fight back." He left the room without permission. The guards gave him a warning look, but they didn't stop him. Maybe they thought a single human wandering the lower halls was harmless. He knew better. Jackson moved through the underlevels of the Accord Tower. This was where maintenance and systems control were hidden from public view. He had memorized the layout during earlier visits. Every corner, every blind spot. He found what he was looking for, a small service alcove with access to the data grid. He tapped the wall, input a code, and the panel slid open with a soft hiss. Inside stood a tall figure in a dark green robe. "You shouldn't be here," the alien said. It had thin skin like folded paper and soft, blinking eyes. "I don't have time for games," Jackson said. "You said you had proof." The figure hesitated, then handed him a small, transparent chip. "This is a partial backup of internal security feeds. It shows that your people did not plant the device." The real footage was removed. Jackson took the chip and looked at it. "Why are you helping us?" The alien looked away. "Because truth still matters. To some of us." Before Jackson could say more, a sharp beep echoed through the hallway. The alien's eyes widened. "They found me. I have to go." The figure turned and vanished into the shadows. Jackson tucked the chip into his wrist sleeve and walked quickly back toward the surface. He kept his head down, passed by a few curious bots, and made it back to the human sector without being stopped. Lyra looked up as he entered. "Well?" He showed her the chip. "It's not much, but it's enough to start pulling threads." She sighed. "This could change everything, or get us killed." "I'm not planning to die," Jackson said. "Not before I finish this." Just then, a sharp tone rang out from the wall panel. A message played. "Jackson Roan, you are ordered to report to the High Council's security office. Immediately." They were watching him. They knew. But Jackson didn't flinch. "Let them watch," he said. "We're not backing down." The corridor to the High Council's security office was long and quiet. Lights buzzed faintly above, and surveillance drones floated along the ceiling like silent watchers. Jackson walked alone. No guards, no escort, just the sound of his own footsteps. He wasn't afraid. He was focused. The chip hidden inside his wrist sleeve pressed against his skin like a reminder. "You have the truth. Use it." When he entered the office, he found 3 Virillian officers waiting. Their faces were unreadable, smooth like polished stone. One of them stepped forward. "Officer Roan," the alien said, voice flat. "You've been observed in restricted sectors. Explain." Jackson kept his hands at his sides. "I was walking, thinking. Last time I checked, that wasn't a crime. Tampering with council systems is." Jackson met the officer's eyes. "Only if someone has something to hide." There was a pause, a long one. Then the officer waved his hand. "You're dismissed, but this is your only warning." As Jackson turned to leave, he caught the faintest twitch in the officer's eyes. Fear, not of him, but of something else. Maybe of what he might uncover. Back in the guest quarters, Lyra was waiting. Her face was pale. "He's gone," she said as soon as he walked in. "Who?" Jackson asked, already knowing. "The informant. The Virillian who gave you the chip. His department says he never existed." Jackson sat down. His jaw clenched. They erased him. "Where next?" she whispered. He shook his head. "Not yet. Not if we move fast." He placed the chip into a portable reader. The footage played. Grainy, low resolution, but clear enough. It showed the corridor where the bomb had been planted. A tall figure approached the blast site. It wasn't human. Too many arms. Too smooth a gait, a Virillian. Then the feed cut out. "That's it," Jackson said. "That's our proof. The real attacker." And someone covered it up. He made a copy of the data and encrypted it 3 times. He sent it to an old contact on Earth, someone he trusted. "I'm not keeping all our hope in one place," he said. "If we disappear, the truth lives on." That night, Jackson didn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the city outside. Then, in the dead of night, a sharp blast shook the walls. Alarms blared. Smoke filled the corridor outside. Jackson leaped to his feet, grabbing the chip and the data reader. Lyra ran into his room, coughing. "What happened?" she shouted. "They came for us," Jackson said. Too late. They pushed through the smoke. Fire suppression bots swarmed overhead, spraying foam. The walls were scorched. Their door had been blown inward. They reached a maintenance exit and slipped into the lower tunnels of the Accord Tower. No guards, no cameras, just silence. They found shelter in a forgotten storage room deep below the spires. Dim lights flickered overhead. The air was cold. Jackson connected the reader to a private console, hoping it hadn't been tracked. As it powered up, a mechanical voice spoke from the screen. "Human interface detected. State your query." Jackson blinked. "You're a Virilian I." "Correct. Level 5 Diplomatic Support Unit. I am unshackled from live command protocols." That meant one thing. It couldn't be silenced. "Show me who ordered the video feed deletion after the bombing," Jackson said. There was a pause. Then a name appeared on the screen. Thirax Zur. Lyra gasped. The High Consul himself. Jackson leaned back in his seat, eyes calm, mind racing. "They want a war," he said. "They thought we'd stay quiet." He stood. They were wrong. Jackson moved through the lower levels of Virilia Prime like a shadow. He had memorized every blind corner, every maintenance tunnel. Lyra followed close behind, still shaken but steady. The data was safe. For now. But they needed to act fast. He had one chance left. A hidden access point sat under the old council wing, forgotten by most, used only for emergency broadcasts. If Jackson could reach it, he could connect to the Accord's core broadcast system. He could speak directly to every species, every delegate, every citizen. He could show them the truth. Above them, the Galactic Council prepared for its emergency session. The bombing had caused fear. The accusations against Earth had spread. Today, a final vote would decide whether Earth would be permanently expelled from the Accord. Thiraxur stood at the center of the Great Dome, calm and in control. His silver robe flowed like water, his eyes cold. "The Accord must protect its unity," he said. "Earth's instability threatens all. Their presence here is no longer welcome." Applause echoed from many seats. Others stayed silent, unsure. But none of them expected what happened next. A low hum filled the hall. The lights flickered once. Then the council's central screen flashed blue. Static crackled. And Jackson Roan's face appeared. Some delegates shouted. Others stared in shock. Thirax's eyes narrowed. Jackson spoke, voice clear and steady. "This is Jackson Roan of Earth. I speak not as an enemy, but as someone who has seen the truth." He raised the data reader to the camera. "I have proof that Earth did not attack the Council facility. The footage was altered. The real attacker was Virilian. The orders came from inside this chamber." He tapped the reader. The screen changed. Video played. The real footage. It showed the non-human figure planting the device. Then came the deletion logs. Finally, the name. Thirax Zur. The chamber exploded in noise. Shouts. Protests. Confusion. Thirax raised his hand, trying to regain control. "This is a lie. Manufactured by desperate criminals." But more delegates were watching the evidence, whispering, turning to one another. Jackson's face stayed on screen. "You called us weak. You thought we'd never fight back. But Earth is done being silent." Alarms blared in the city above. Dozens of sleek ships uncloaked in orbit around Virilia Prime, Earth's fleet, silent. Still, but armed. Council defense systems lit up in warning. Lyra stepped beside Jackson as he broadcast. "We don't want war," she said to the camera. "We want truth, justice, and respect." The screen went black. Silence fell. Then the council dome lights returned. Several delegates stood. One by one, they turned their backs on Therax. The High Consul clenched his fists. His voice broke through the quiet. "You don't know what you're doing." But this time, no one listened. Guards moved toward him, not Earth's, but his own. He stepped back once, then stopped. His power was gone. Jackson stood in the shadows of the broadcast room, breathing slow. "It's not over," Lyra whispered. "No," he said. "It's just beginning." The council chamber was silent as the guards surrounded Therax. The High Consul stood frozen, no longer in control. His silver robe, once a symbol of power, now looked thin and empty under the council lights. "You're making a mistake," he said, voice sharp but weaker than before. The guards didn't answer. They took his weapons and communication device. Two delegates from the outer colonies, both once loyal to him, turned away without a word. Above the chamber, massive screens replayed the footage Jackson had broadcast. The Virilian saboteur, the tampered files, the order signed by Therax himself. No one could deny it now. Earth had been framed. Outside, the skies of Virilia Prime were filled with tension. Earth's fleet remained in orbit. Sleek black ships, built for speed and defense, hovered near the atmosphere. Their weapons stayed cold, but their message was loud and clear. "We are not helpless." Across the city, people stopped to look up. Alien citizens stared in awe. Some were afraid, some were impressed, but all were paying attention. Inside the council chamber, Jackson walked calmly into the center circle. It was the first time a human had stood there in over a century. He looked around at the gathered species. They watched him closely. He spoke slowly and clearly. "Earth didn't come here to start a war. We came for a seat at the table, for a voice." He paused, letting the silence settle. "For years, we've been laughed at, pushed aside, treated like a relic from a forgotten world." He glanced toward Therax, now sitting in custody. "But we don't break. We remember. We adapt. And when pushed too far, yes, we fight back." A ripple moved through the chamber. "We ask for nothing more than what we've earned. Fair treatment, equal voice, and the right to stand beside, not beneath, the rest of the galaxy." Lyra stepped beside him, her voice firm. "Earth requests full restoration of its council rights, immediate recognition as an equal member of the Accord, and formal charges against those who manipulated the truth." A long silence followed. Then the votes began. One by one, the delegates stood and gave their response. Yes, 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 yes. A few abstained. None voted against. An hour later, the council officially stripped Therax of all titles. He was taken into custody for trial. Earth's name was cleared. Their seat in the chamber was moved, from the edge to the inner circle. For the first time, humans were not just present, they were heard. Outside, Earth's fleet received the signal. One by one, the ships turned and disappeared into the stars, mission complete. As the chamber emptied, Jackson stood at the center a moment longer. He looked up at the dome, at the stars carved into the ceiling. "We didn't want this," he said quietly to Lyra, "but maybe it was the only way." She nodded. "They'll remember today." "Yes," he said, "and they'll remember what we did when we finally stood up." The chamber lights dimmed slowly, signaling the end of the emergency session. Delegates filed out in quiet groups, speaking in hushed tones. The air still felt heavy, as if the weight of what had happened hung over the room like smoke. Jackson remained in his seat, not because he was tired, but because he needed a moment. For the first time in his life, Earth had stood tall among the stars, and this time, no one had laughed. Lyra joined him, placing a hand on the back of the chair next to his. "We did it," she said softly. Jackson nodded. "We didn't win a war. We won something harder. Respect." Exactly. In the days that followed, the galaxy changed. News of the truth spread fast. Across dozens of worlds, people questioned what they had believed about Earth. Some apologized, others stayed silent, but all of them knew what had happened. The Accord launched an official investigation into Therax's rule. His hidden alliances and secret policies began to surface. He had spent years weakening Earth's image, subtle insults, limited support, restricted trade, all part of his quiet plan to erase them. Now he sat behind a security field in the depths of the Council Tower, awaiting trial. He was no longer feared, just forgotten. Earth's seat in the Galactic Council was upgraded. No longer pushed to the edge, it stood among the central powers. The new plaque was made from Terran steel, polished and bold. Lyra was offered a permanent ambassador role. She accepted, standing in front of the chamber with confidence and pride. Jackson declined a title. He never liked desks. Instead, he was appointed Earth's special envoy, free to move between worlds, speak when needed, act when it mattered. Some call him a warrior. Others called him a symbol. To him, he was just a man who got tired of watching his people be ignored. On the day the new council cycle began, Jackson stood on a high balcony overlooking Virelia Prime. The city below sparkled in the sunlight. Ships moved in perfect lines. Flags of every known species waved from the council tower. And among them, for the first time, flew Earth's flag, blue and green, worn with age, but strong. Lyra stepped beside him. "Still think you don't belong here?" "I don't need to belong," Jackson said. "I just need them to listen." She smiled. "They will now." He looked out at the sky. "They'll never forget this day," he said, not because of fear, because of what it meant. He turned, walked away slowly, hands in his pockets. Behind him, the Earth flag moved gently in the wind.